Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Dawnbringers, the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Season 3, Episode 21, What Dreams May Come. And we will be catching you up on what has happened in the last few sessions and see where the Dawnbringers are following last week's incredible session. I'm going to start off with our very first announcement, that you'll notice that for I believe it's the third week in a row that Dan has been joining us. And for at least the foreseeable future, Dan's not going anywhere. Dan has joined the Dawnbringers family. So we are very happy to have you here with us, Dan. Obviously it's been a pleasure the few times, the previous time, and then having you come back and guest as Drown. And you know, we've had you on the channel before with the Jasper Stream Week, and we just like you. We want to keep you around. So welcome to the Dawnbringers family. Welcome to Mini Terrain Domain family. So everybody be sure in chat to thank Dan, or rather congratulate Dan for joining us. I've heard that he has registered for heaps of domain dice, which you can award to Dan and the rest of the Dawnbringers through subscriptions. For one, we've already had 2 subscriptions, one right before we got on the stream and one just now, from our friend EverJ, 20 months in a row. Thank you, Jason, for that. And Shadow of Dragons has just resubbed for 3 months in a row. That puts you guys up to 110 domain dice right now. But you can also make sure that they are flush with domain dice by tipping $5 through the donations bar down, or the tip bar down at the bottom. You can do cheering with bits. 500 bits will also get a domain die. And if the channel gets rated by one of our friends out there in Twitch land, we will also award the players a domain die. Those domain dice they can use at any time to re-roll a d20. They can spend 2 domain dice to make me re-roll a d20. They can spend 3 domain dice per person to use their hit dice outside of healing. Now, that's not 3 domain dice per hit die. That's just 3 domain die to use hit dice. 4 domain dice will turn a failed death saving throw into a successful death saving throw, unless, of course, that is a critical fail, and then it's going to cost you 8 domain dice. And finally, we have the Patron's Blessing. 5 domain dice will turn a hit into a super crit, which is an automatic double max damage to that target. And we have seen that used in a variety of ways. So that covers domain dice, which as I just see that GW Devon asked and automatically triggered through text, through the text commands, the explanation, which is also scrolling along the bottom. And you can also thank our good friend Tamiko, who has just resubscribed for 13 months, which is going to bring you up to 111 domain dice. Getting those domain dice in before we go into this session. I mean, what's going to go wrong? You just fought a bunch of, you fought some automatons. You fought a dragon turtle and defeated a dragon turtle. I mean, what else could I possibly have in store for you? So that's domain dice. Real quick, we do have a couple of people that we have partnered with. If you look down below Megan in the lower left-hand corner, Mini Terrain Domain is a proud partner with Jasper's Game Day, a wonderful organization that is dedicated to raising awareness of and prevention of suicide through tabletop gaming, founded by the amazing Fenway Jones, right here in my home state of Michigan. Founded, I believe, 2 years ago, and is already doing tremendous things. Lots of people getting involved, and I will be at the flagship Jasper's Game Day over near Detroit. You can check out Jasper's Game Day on Facebook for more information about that and who all's going to be there. I know Satine Phoenix is going to be there. A couple of bigwigs in the Adventurers League are going to be there. And they do a lot of Adventurers League stuff at Jasper's. And I'll be running something brand new that I will be doing some live streams as I craft new terrain for an encounter that I'm going to be running, and that I will also be auctioning off all of that terrain to benefit Jasper's Game Day at that con. And I believe we're going to have an online component to that, so everybody will be able to have an opportunity to bid if they choose. But any money that is raised for Jasper's Game Day, that money goes to benefit crisis centers around the country. There are many places that are trained and staffed to deal with post-suicide stress, talking to the family and the friends of people, education, training, things like that. And that's where those funds go. Another way that you can donate to that cause and get a little something for yourself is through our partner Initiative Coffee Company. Another logo down below, Megan there in the corner. And for each of these things, there are banners on Twitch down below. And our friends are, of course, putting chat commands with links in the chat. I've partnered with Initiative Coffee Company's Help Action to bring Mitade roast coffee, a wonderful Brazilian and Peruvian medium roast coffee. It's absolutely delicious, and you can purchase a bag at that link for yourself. And for every 12-ounce bag you purchase, $3 of your purchase price will go to benefit Jasper's Game Day. You will notice if you are watching on a computer and you mouse over the screen, you will see this wonderful D&D Beyond overlay that pops up that has all of the characters. And because we've added Dan to the mix, you have to go to the bottom. There's an arrow, and you can click over and you can see the additional characters that don't show up. But and I think it may be Drown that's actually not showing up as I look at it. So yeah, just click that little arrow, but that'll tell you where they are in hit points. It'll tell you if they've got bonus hit points, what conditions they're under. You can actually click through and see their character sheets as well. So thank you to D&D Beyond for granting Mini Terrain Domain insider access. I run all of my D&D streams using D&D Beyond. So thank you to them for that. Let's see. I think I've just about hit on all of the announcements. Two last things. One, you can also type in !merch if you are interested in. You see the ham bones showing up as an emote. There is a t-shirt called the Ham or Die t-shirt that is available for purchase. There is a Dawnbringers logo tee, a Bardic college. I just took the sweatshirt off. It's off. I can't get to it right now, but a Bardic college sweatshirt that I designed, and numerous other original designs, and the Mini Terrain Domain logo, stuff like that. Support Mini Terrain Domain and show off your swag through the Teespring store there. And the last thing that I wanted to announce is tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/miniterraindomain. One of the links that just popped up there in that social media pop-up is that during that time, from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m., I will be running my first of the new I'm probably still going to call it Guild Artisan, even though it starts tomorrow. I haven't come up with the name, a new name for it. But I will be doing live terrain crafting, miniature painting, designing, whatever, on YouTube for 2 hours almost every Friday night. Because at least once a month, I'll be hanging out with V and Ted over on the Nerdarchy channel. And then I will be leading people or encouraging people after that stream to go head over to back here to Twitch to check out Alan's Curse of Strahd game. So if you like crafting and you want to see how I do what I do, tune in on Friday nights from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern. The very first episode tomorrow, I'm going to show people how to make the cardboard core for dice towers. You can make any dice tower of all the numerous dice towers that I've done and the commissions and things. That's where I start, with a simple cardboard dice tower. So I do believe I have now completed the announcements. So with that, I think it's time to play some Dungeons and Dragons. All right. So we are going to, we're going to get a quick recap, bring you up to speed with where the Dawnbringers are. Most recently, over the last few sessions, the Dawnbringers having been struggling to get a foothold in Saltmarsh, as they've sort of stepped into the muck from the moment they stepped off the boat. It seems that the town of Saltmarsh has been leveraged against them. And everywhere they go and everything they try to do, it seems that even in the best case scenarios, it's a thankless job, the things they are doing, which seems to be weighing heavily on Thorgarn in particular. Very frustrated by that. But in the course of dealing primarily with clearing their captain, Captain Stark, of slavery charges, and he was nearly executed for being wrongfully accused of slavery. And with the assistance of Drown, they were able to rescue several slaves and set them up in the slavers / smugglers' old hideout. And they got word of where the rest of the slaves were when Drown showed back up. While the rest of the Dawnbringers were, in fact, talking at last to the Lady Vantage, a mysterious elven woman who had introduced herself on their first day in town. She invited them to dinner, where she surprised them all with rooms in her mansion that were very specifically decorated to them and their unique tastes. But she also seemed to know a bit more about everybody than she probably should have, it seemed. And Cantriel learned quite a bit about her own past from this woman, who during dinner revealed herself to be an ancient bronze dragon. She took on the role of their patron, presenting them all with unique gifts. And presenting Cantriel with this information in private, later Cantriel related the information in a very somber and unique, original song. They proceeded to have a hero's feast for what they knew in general was going to be rough times coming. Sooner than they had anticipated, when the dreaded Dreadnought, an ironclad warship that had been rumored to be crewed entirely by constructs, they could actually see it arriving in the harbor and immediately begin a siege on the town. By the time they arrived down to the harbor, they watched in horror as the Dreadnought began to rise up out of the water, and they discovered that it was chained to the back of a massive dragon turtle. An incredible battle ensued, but the dragon turtle proved to be no match for the Dawnbringers, and it was brought down. Following the defeat of the dragon turtle, the Talmud, thanks to his rage, survived the 60-foot plummet from the deck of the warship as he was pushed off by the captain, who just happened to be another construct from the same maker as Fig, also known, our own Fig known as Figure 2 Prometheus. This was in fact Figure 3 Archimedes. But Fig proved to be an incredible match of wits for Archimedes, and that ended with Archimedes on her knees, her construct carapace open, and Fig ultimately absorbing Archimedes' mind into her own. The town lay in ruins, smoking in places. Many, many people in town are dead. The council, they've learned at least that Eleander Firebrand, a tenuous ally at least, had been found dead. The rest of the council unaccounted for. Manistrad Copperlocks, the foreman of the mines, and the dwarves had taken charge of the situation, bringing in all of her dwarves who have begun to help in the recovery efforts. Captain Dervish surprised you all when he took his own ship, the Evangeline, and showed you that it can also fly, as he flew up to meet the deck of the Dreadnought and rescue, with Griveth helping rescue the rest of the slaves, now refugees. But Manistrad did tell you it's probably best if you all leave town and go to your safe house now. She's going to convene an emergency council, and in a day or two will summon you to determine how the town wants to proceed. But nobody really wants you around. Ultimately, they see this as being your fault, what has happened. So we are going to pick up, it's approximately a couple hours after everything has ensued, and you are gathering the refugees, the many refugees, and preparing to lead them 4 miles outside of town to where your safe house is. Drown had spoken briefly, had found, as they was offloaded, found his friend that he had been seeking before, which I believe is Valoran, a dwarf from the mountains in the northern regions here on towards Keeland. And Fig had turned over the Dreadnought and its entire crew of constructs to the Lady Vantage. -1, Figure 11, Hermes, who follows along but does very little other than go where you say to go, literally interpreting any base instructions that you give it. So at this point, you are all standing just at the northern edge of the town. You have about 40 refugees. You have yourselves. You have Hermes. You have Drown with you. You have Captain Stark. And most of his crew has stayed on board, but Stark is there with all of you. What would you like to do?
Scream!
So I stated, or Thorgarn stated, last session that he left town and he went to the house completely without saying a word to anyone. So if everyone else is on the outskirts of town, I'm not there.
Cantriel was following after too. Like, probably not quite in line, but she would have pursued seeing him knock over the latest automaton and then just book it.
All I'm saying is I just don't understand why we can't hide out in the mansion with the dragon. That's where all the Kiergan is. Why are we not just bedding down there? We don't have to go outside.
Lady Vantage is the dragon. He kind of swivels around to look at.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
He just kind of nods once and says, "That makes sense."
Was I not supposed to say anything?
Drow just kind of shrugs. So are we at the mansion where the house on the outskirts?
No,
where, okay.
Thorgarn. I'm going to say that Thorgarn and Cantriel, at this point, because you've pretty much, like I said, you got 40 people that are looking to all of you, standing on the edge of town, just kind of like, some of them look pretty scared. They're hungry. Some of them look like they had been enslaved for much longer than others. Your friend, Drown Valoran, does seem to be taking on a bit of a leadership role with them, at least sort of keeping them together, going to a couple of younger men and women, and just making sure that the stronger ones are there to help them. I would say that Cantriel and Griveth or Thorgarn are probably have a good, I would say probably a good mile on all of you as you head out or prepare to head out. So, hey, you got a lot of people here, Dervish says. You're gonna take them all up to this house, yeah?
Sorry, who is he talking to?
Just in general to all of you standing there. I would imagine he's probably not seeing Cantriel. I would imagine he's probably turning instead to Griveth.
Yeah.
You don't seem so sure about that.
I'm not.
So this is a lot of people to take up the road.
Yeah. Cantriel, Thorgarn, where are you going?
Would Cantriel have heard that?
I mean, I would actually say probably not, because of all of the ambient noise that's going on around this place right now. That you wouldn't have heard that. Look, I know I probably should have said something before we offloaded them all, but it's not that. I mean, I can bring the ship around just to the northernmost docks here, and some of them don't look like they're gonna be doing too good walking a few miles.
Can you fly that contraption to?
I'm not gonna be able to fly it again for a few days. I had to burn that to assist. Thankfully, we didn't have to get into it with that ship, but I mean, we can sail.
Hang on to him for a few days.
We can sail up to the ship or up to the house.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's just a few miles up the coast.
Okay.
It'll at least save everybody the wear on their feet. I mean, you guys all can ride. It'll be a little tight on board, but
yeah, these people don't look so good. I mean, I can carry 2 or 3 on my back, but
you go on 4 miles carrying people, one on each arm, somebody clinging to your back.
So the captain just talked about loading everyone onto the ship and just sailing them up the coast?
Yes.
All right, so Drown just sort of nods once, turns on his heel, and starts herding people toward the ship. Move onto the boat.
like this guy.
Sort of seeing what you're doing, Drown, Valoran, very quickly, also from the other side starts to sort of herd people in that direction as well.
If anyone, as the captain was mentioning, they're not in very good shape. If anyone looks like they're not able to move, Drown will just sort of scoop them up. And
there's a couple.
carry them.
There's a couple that look like they are more likely than not. You can assume that they were in captivity the longest,
Right.
and are very weak. So, yeah, you're all able to help maneuver around to this northernmost dock, and Stark brings the ship in. I'm going to say it's probably going to take an hour to get everybody loaded into the ship.
Yeah. Talmud takes one look at the ship and says, "I'm going to walk. I'll meet you there."
Stark just kind of looks at you and says, "Oh yeah, yeah." I mean, it tends to be it tends to be a little rockier towards the shore, so
just 4 miles. It's fine.
Why does everyone want to leave the group?
He doesn't like the ship.
He doesn't. I would say his stomach doesn't like the ship. He doesn't like the sea.
We're scattered everywhere.
That tends to afflict dwarves, I've noticed.
As you're finishing getting everybody loaded on, Drown, you notice, and some of the refugees, when they see them, as everybody's getting brought on board, you hear this voice. It comes from below decks and emerges onto the deck, as you hear this voice that says, "I don't remember anybody asking for permission to board my vessel. Everybody must come on, please. Decorum must be observed. You have to ask permission to board. No, oh my. Oh dear, are you all right?" And he immediately shifts tone. "Permission is granted. Permission is granted." And Drown, you see the people giving a wide berth as a roughly 4 or 5 foot diameter greenish sphere floats up above the deck with 4 eye stalks. It is a spectator.
All right. We'll just kind of pause. Look at that. It seems to be an official presence on the ship, and nobody's panicking, so he'll just sort of keep herding everyone up the gangplank.
Yeah, it's not dangerous. It's just annoying.
As you come on board, Drown, towering above everybody else, its eyes catch yours. All 5 of its eyes catch yours, and it floats over to you. "You look much healthier than the rest of these. Are you responsible for all of these people?"
Not exactly, but I'm helping. Permission to come aboard.
Now this is what I like, somebody that knows. Permission granted. I am First Mate Victor. Welcome to the Evangeline.
Thank you. I'm called Drown.
Drown. Is that meant to be ironic?
He smiles and says, "No, it's quite descriptive," and then just goes and starts hauling people up over the rail into the ship.
And Victor just sort of floats around. "No, don't touch that! No, stay away from that. That's mine." And you just hear lots of little bits of this, but his voice seems to have a little bit of a softness to it as he's seeing the state these people are in. So we've got Thorgarn, who I imagine at some point within about 1.5 to 2 miles, Cantriel's going to catch up to, I'm sure, on the road.
Audibly.
Talmud is another mile behind them. Griveth, are you boarding the ship with Drown?
Yeah, I'm getting on the ship.
And then Fig, where are you in your new protege?
Fig and Hermes are probably the last two to be coming up that way, but they would maybe jog up to catch up with Talmud, and I think that they would walk with him.
You find that as you're walking, simple walking commands for Hermes. I would imagine you have to repeatedly call Hermes back. Hermes moves very quickly. Hermes is a tall and thin construct, slender, and seems to have been built for speed. Most of his height is in his legs, and he seems to have been designed to move very quickly. So there'd be a lot of either letting him run ahead a little ways, kind of like letting a dog run out and come back. You're finding that he follows your very basic commands. Thorgarn, you are well outside of town. Finally, the din of the commotion of the town, the ringing bells stopped shortly after the attack, but the wailing and the yelling and just the sounds of people looking for other people finally have faded, and all you hear is a little ways off to your right. You hear the crashing of the surf. As you begin rising up these bluffs, you hear the surf crashing below, and you hear your own armor and weapons, that sort of rhythmic clanking as you're walking along, the shuffle of your feet, the clacking of stones as you kick small pebbles ahead of you with each step, and the occasional as a breeze pushes through the tall grass. After a few moments, you hear an additional sound, very faintly, because even without trying, I imagine Cantriel steps much softer than you do, but you do hear approaching steps.
So I probably don't hear the footfalls, as a lot of my attention is focused, in his raging inner monologue. But as Cantriel, calls out probably a couple of times, Thorgarn finally hears enough of it, and turns around to see her approach.
Well, that took some convincing.
My apologies.
Don't apologize. You're not one to lose your cool.
I can't believe her. After all we've done, we're now not welcome.
Trust me, it's a song I'd like to sing as well.
So we were hired for a job, and I was the most adamant in our group about accepting. And don't get me wrong, there's some grand and glorious things that could have happened here, but I'm not going back.
I'm rather sick of being wrong place, wrong time myself.
So when we came here, we learned a handful of things. One of those little tidbits, and I point in the direction, and I'm just going to say that we're probably, you said about 2 miles into this trek, we're probably not all that far from where we actually fought the lizard men.
Indeed.
And I'm gonna point that out. Lizard men were slavers here, taking townsfolk. And while I don't care about the townsfolk anymore, I do want to shut them down. And I'd like your help in convincing the rest of us. But after that's done, I want no more parts of this place.
The sooner we get out of here, the better. For more than one reason, at least. It's not just the slaves we need to stop. happening and save. There's more going on. Surprise! In
And
terms of things gone wonky.
I think it's only right and proper we send a message to our patron. It's only not all that long ago when I hoist out this, fabulous warhammer in my hands. She said that she wished to take us on, but she's here. And as much as I don't want to give this back, I have no intention of going back into that town. And if she only wants to be our patron here,
She's not expecting us to stick around. I have that on good authority.
well, that's happy. Hopefully she can find a way to get missive to us.
Something tells me she will. We may need to backtrack a little bit, though that's something better discussed with everyone.
So be it. How are you holding up?
Screaming internally, you?
You probably heard some of my, screams on the walk up here. I'm
Yes.
certain that you've seen the shattered rocks and things from my passing.
I know you're trying to make a difference and trying to have things go better. Heroic actions aren't always visible the first go around. Sometimes people need distance to realize that what was done was probably the bravest and the strongest thing one could have done at the time.
There are times, and I've brought this up before, but I feel I'm cursed. That death seems to come around, and Firebrand only being the most recent loss, the one who was the only one in this town who really seemed to show faith in what it was that we do, believed us from moment one, despite mine and my cousin's arrogance and blusteriness. He believed us. The only one willing to stand up for us in this town has been taken away in one foul swoop.
You and I have far more in common than I realized, Thorgarn.
I could list the names. And in fact, and he looks over his shoulder, and you see a tear, just go down his cheek, and he loses his breath for a moment. They're right there. I see them. They follow me. They're not always there, except Father Griffin. But every spirit that is attached and that is gone from this world follows me.
At this point, Cantriel would probably, just to be more at eye level, she'd kneel down and put a hand on his shoulder. I know how that feels. I may not. Well, I do see one now. And she jerks her head back to the bow. I've been haunted most of my life by the loss of my own family and a few others. It does feel like a cursed life. That no matter where you go, whomever you grow close to, someone's bound to get hurt or worse.
Hurt, that's life. You deal with that. That's kind of almost the Dwarven way. We live in stone and play with fire. It's standard. I've spent more than my fair share of time at a forge. You touch the hot metal, you get burned by the flying cinders. That's normal. But not everyone should experience as much death as we have.
Perhaps not. I, for one, want to try and stop it if possible, though.
Well, that is the path we walk. We must, as troubling as it is, you push past. But eventually, will the rock slide crush you, or will you grow strong enough to hold it back?
Strength in numbers?
Aye.
Something tells me we're going to have a busy house when we get back. Maybe you and I should get in there first and sort of get things sorted and see if there's something we can cobble together for a meal for everyone. Hopefully, others at least have gathered something, but we'll see.
We'll see what we can put together then.
As the two of you continue walking down this dusty road, Thorgarn, you start walking again, and in that way that is habitual, you glance over your shoulder again at the spirits that haunt you. And you do see one more spirit amongst them. That of Eliander Firebrand, who's joined the ranks of those that are following you.
Kind of expected that.
Talmud, you're a little ways behind them, far enough that you haven't seen them yet. And as you're walking along, it's not long before you hear this ding, 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 sort of rapid fire metal sound. And then I imagine occasionally you hear Fig's voice call out something to the effect of summoning it back. And then you hear it recede. It's slowly getting louder, and it's not long before you see Fig and Hermes on the road behind you. Hermes keeps drawing closer and then coming back. And Fig, you come over a hill and you see Talmud up on the road ahead of you.
It's a good thing that you're with him. The first time he came running up on me, I almost turned him into a pile of scrap is what I did.
Our
He's all
apologies.
fidgety. Why is he so fidgety? He's still moving.
He is a lot faster than I thought.
Is there some kind of way to put him to sleep or slow him down or fold him up?
Not sure. I do not want to fold him up.
No, of course not.
He will learn. He will learn to slow down for others. He will learn his own strength.
I'm sorry, Fig. I'm a little just a little worked up. That's all.
Are you okay?
I mean, it's just a few scratches here and there. Yeah, it's not the first 60-foot fall I've taken before.
You were alone up on that ship.
Aye, for a moment.
That must have been scary.
I mean, no, not really. I mean, maybe a little bit. He kind of looks around to make sure that there's nobody within earshot. You, are you okay?
A lot has changed. I don't know. When she dropped you, I have never wanted to take a life before. But I wanted to. When I saw you there, I was filled with so much anger.
On my account? Well,
I tried to save you. She would not let me. That made me angry.
I know all about anger. Trust me. You have to promise me, Fig, that whatever it is that's going on inside, you stay in charge Okay? You make sure that you're the one who's making the calls. Okay?
How did you learn to stay in charge?
He kind of starts like rubbing the back of his neck nervously. I'm not entirely sure that I am, to be honest.
You seem to change so quickly, almost at an instant, when one of your ancestors takes over.
It's not usually by choice. It seems to happen in the moment. It's there's almost this. It's hard to explain. Almost like when you're boiling water, it boils and roils up to the top, and then finally just one of them happens to emerge. One wins out, and I just kind of become part of the royal, honestly, until it's over with, and then I'm all of a sudden awake in a way. It's hard to describe.
Fig just kind of nods. Perhaps we both need to take your advice then, to stay in control.
You have a very simple way of putting things that somehow manages to be very profound, Fig. Well, I suppose I can always try. I'm happy that one of us seems to be figuring out who they are.
I hope the same for you. If you ever need to talk, or if you need help, you can talk to any of us. You know that. I detect just something I have found, and this may be wrong. I am not the best at figuring out people's emotions or what they mean. But sometimes I feel like you are wearing a mask. A mask of joking one-liners that are comical, for sure. I have certainly almost broken a gear by how much I have laughed at your jokes. But you do not share a lot.
No, I mean, there's not really much reason. I'm fine. So much else is going on all the time. Everybody has the things that they're dealing with, and it's it's just family. What can you do, really?
Family also stays by each other. So if you are ever going through something, please, I would like to hear it.
Thank you, Fig. I really appreciate that. We should probably go.
You see, Hermes is like already.
As Hermes is just moving back and forth. Hermes, you'll notice you've called him back a few times and seems to have developed a pattern now while you've been talking where he runs out about 50 feet ahead of you, pivots on one leg, runs back towards you, runs 50 feet behind you, and has just sort of moving back and forth in this 100 feet, still progressing forward as you guys are moving, but it's just allowing him to stretch his legs, so to speak. But without your commands, he's anticipated that you're going to call him back and seems to have developed this pattern. Yeah, he's briefly stopping next to Fig, dung, 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 running in place. Back on the ship, Drown and Griveth, Captain Dervish has you helping as he has had some of the crew bring up some of the supplies that he had on board, some very basic clean water and simple rations, warning you not to give them too much. Let them only sip from the ladle. You give them too much and they're going to get sick. Some of them look like they have not been eaten very well at all. We shouldn't be too long. It takes a little longer to navigate along the shoreline here, watching out, for rocks and stuff, but the tide's up. So we should be there within the hour.
Yeah, Drown will take supplies to the folks who need them the most and start distributing.
Cantriel and Thorgarn, you are the first to arrive at the safe house. It looks much the way that you remember it, up on this hill. I mean, it's only been a few days. You notice, probably first and foremost, that as you approach the gate where you had encountered those giant weasels or ferrets or whatever that had come running out of the tall grass, you notice that the grass has been trimmed and the garden has been weeded. That the refugees seem to have been working to clean the place up. You see signs of where old siding and shutters were hanging loose. Out behind the house, you see a now smoldering remains of a burn pile. It looks like they may have taken some of this old lumber that was rotted and burned it. They burned the weeds, piling everything up. You don't see anybody out and about. But as you kind of are moving towards the main entrance of this house and you catch the glimpse from the garden, you notice that now with the high grasses down, you have a clear line of view to the back of the house. And you see that there are some rolling hills of tall grass swaying in the wind. But about 100 yards out from the house, you see a lone oak tree at the shore of a largish pond. And you do see a single humanoid figure standing out there by themselves, just on the dock, looking out across the pond and out across the rolling hills.
Does it look like one of the refugees that we rescued, or was it somebody we don't recognize?
It does, and in fact, it looks like Laramie, the brother of the brother and sister duo that had sort of taken charge.
Cantriel would definitely mark that and start sort of making her way over.
Yeah, I would approach as well.
Everything all right?
He doesn't turn or answer for a moment. He doesn't seem to respond to what you've said.
She'd gently put a hand on the back of his shoulder.
Oh, I am sorry. I was lost in my thoughts.
It happens. Looks like you've all been busy, though.
Oh, the house, yes. Well, we were unclear how long it was going to be before you returned. And we figured we have this house, let's make it more livable. It was in a very, and still is a bit, in a very poor condition. But myself and a couple of the others, we have experience in carpentry and such. So we've tended Velitha on the first day, led the efforts in clearing the garden, weeding it out. We found some baby weasels of an extraordinary size.
Yes, they're of rather unusual sizes, yes.
But they seemed a bit timid at first, but we were able to calm them down. They're still living in their burrow under the fence, and we think it's best to just leave them there.
She'll look over to Thorgarn. They
Recommend
don't
you not
bite.
stick your head in there. Saying.
Yes, we've had a run-in, unfortunately. Him especially.
Uh,
Well, what would you say to the news that we've managed to free a few more? And I think they're on their way here.
you freed the others.
We did.
Yes.
How many?
Most of them.
Most of them. There were at least another 15 that were left on that awful ship. You
Yes,
got all of them.
It's a party. Really, if there's anything we can do to start getting the house ready for a larger count of people, that probably wouldn't be a bad thing.
Well, I mean, we've did a lot of work to get everything ready. Most of it was cleanup. During your efforts to free us, it appears that you left behind a few bodies, and
Well, yes, that's sort of a hazard of the workplace.
I believe we're talking more about getting comfortable bed space.
oh, that is what I'm saying, is that we were able to deal with them, although we almost lost Keegan and Erthal. It appears that one of the bodies in the back room in the cellar was infested with rot grubs. It is nothing a little bit of fire can't cure. It is a good thing we saw them burrowing. Those things, they like to go straight for the heart.
Lovely. Lovely.
But yes,
That's-
we've taken care, and he sort of indicates off far on the other side of the pond, and you can see where there appears to have been some overturned earth. It looks as though they may have buried any bodies that they pulled from the house. There were a number of beds that were in that cellar area, and a couple that were in some upstairs bedrooms. There was a lot of textiles and things like that, cloth, silks, rugs, and such, that if we need a few more bedrolls, we can make do. There's a lot of room in the cellar space, and we have cleaned up the kitchens and the office spaces, and of course, we reserved some rooms on the top floor for all of you, so that you, upon your return, would have a comfortable place to sleep.
That was extremely considerate of you.
Very, very thoughtful. Not certain that's gonna get much use for us.
Well, let's see for the night at least. Perhaps it might be best to send someone. I don't know if town's gonna be able to quite handle it, but maybe see if you can get some more provisions.
We brought up all of the supplies that were down in the caverns when you rescued us. They had offloaded supplies from the boat. There's more than enough provisions for us.
You're officially my favorite person today.
So it's not all bad news today, huh?
Cantriel,
Silver lining.
you would notice with your almost
Craziness?
godlike passive perception that the whole time he's been talking to you, he's been shifting uncomfortably. And he keeps putting his hand on the back of his head and sort of, in that way when somebody's kind of, their body language betrays that they're not telling you something.
There's more to the story, isn't there?
I don't know what it is. I'm hesitant to bring it up because it may be nothing, but
Or something.
You have to understand, for all of us, this experience being captured and held captive like this, it was an experience none of us had expected. So I don't know if it's usual that following an experience such as that, for the nightmares, for the restlessness, some of them have taken to walking in their sleep, finding themselves in a corner of the room, having barricaded themselves with the mattress. I myself find that it is the nightmares come almost every night.
Well, once everyone gets here, anyone that is experiencing this, we can have maybe Griveth or Fig take a look, see if it's magical or natural.
What am I, chopped liver?
Was that?
She'll just kind of wiggle her fingers and these sparks just start kind of coming from the fingertips.
Magic.
But
Remember?
do you shut down magic? I don't think I've seen that.
I don't know if this is magic.
This has more to do with the heart and the mind, I think.
It's Velitha. The first 2 days that she was so eager in the garden and leading the charge, and now she barely will come out of her room.
Which room is hers?
She's up on the upper floor in one of the rooms we had reserved for you.
Then she and I will be sharing a room, and I'll be seeing how she does this evening.
If it is not too much trouble, I would appreciate this.
Oh, it wasn't an option.
He seems to visibly relax a bit.
I'll do what I can for her. You don't have to handle this alone.
I appreciate that, but I worry if the few of us that are here are dealing with this, what of the others? It sounds like if you rescued all of them, there are going to be at least twice as many of us here.
I believe it's called group therapy.
I don't know what this is. This group therapy.
It's something we Eladrins do. Don't worry about it.
Okay, well,
You
I
have a
appreciate
place
it.
That's safe. You'll have each other to keep yourself even more so. You'll have comrades who have been through the hardship and the challenge that you have all faced. So you know what each has experienced.
It is my hope. Velita and I talked about this the first night, and I hope that maybe she can find comfort again. But we would like to, whether you choose to stay or, as you have said, perhaps you will be moving on. We would like to stay and manage this place for you. We would like to help with any of the other refugees and live here and assist others that are displaced as best we can. I mean, as long as that is okay with all of you, of course. This is, after all, your place now.
Well, You've also made it somewhat your own by taking care of it, and quite frankly, I don't see the rest of us having much issue with wanting to help. Once everyone gets here, we can maybe talk the silver more. And she'll look to Thorgarn and sort of, not in her sarcastic, bratty way, she sort of arches a brow.
He gives a nod. He understands what you're trying to say.
From the front of the house, you hear "Dun, dun, 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 dun,
Oh,
dun,
dear
dun,"
God.
come running down the road as Hermes, the construct, comes moving ahead of Fig and Talmud. You actually see,
I'm totally like turning my body because that she's hearing.
yeah, you see, dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
So the as it's charging, obviously, Cantriel is going to turn first. Her ears are significantly better than Thorgarn's. But
prettier.
as he turns, the warhammers, fly into his hands, and he pulls back, the new warhammer, ready to throw. And as Hermes kind of turns and begins heading back, he thinks for a moment, is that the one that Fig absconded with?
That or it's a boomerang.
And it's a moment later you see Fig and Talmud come through the gate at the front of the house.
Today's not a good day for surprises.
No, don't. And she's like pointing, no surprises. What? Nice and calm waters, please.
And you would also notice that about this time you've been walking long enough, and despite the fact that they had to get everybody loaded up, you see the white sails against the blue sky of Evangeline, the Evangeline, as it's sailing along the coastline, coming around the curve of the coast and heading toward the house. And of course, that you have the ship won't be able to anchor so close to the house, but they'll be able to ferry refugees up through the cave entrance on the lower level.
Our garage.
Yeah, your garage.
Is there, I don't know, it's just kind of a house on the ocean or on a cliff. Is there any sort of dock or pier or anything like that?
There isn't. The house sits up on this cliff, this bluff, about 40 or 50 feet, and there is a largish cave opening that is nestled below it that you remember having swam out of as you gave chase.
And so the ship should be able to sail into that cave. Was it that big?
No, it's not big enough, especially at high tide, but even at low tide, it's more, and as you saw previously, the Sea Ghosts had anchored offshore and then taken the boats.
Got it.
And knowing that, you would be able to direct, because Dervish is unful with this setup.
I'll guide him in since I've.
But you and Griveth both are familiar with this, yeah. So it's still going to be a little bit longer before Drown and Griveth, before the ship catches up. Talmud and Fig, as you catch up to the house and you see Cantriel and Thorgarn, what are you guys doing? Are you greeting them? Or are you going to the front of the house?
What's everybody doing out here?
Twiddling our thumbs.
That figures.
How are the others? Have you seen them?
Well, apparently they have been making efforts to improve the house. Or did you mean the others from our group?
The former slaves.
They've actually been getting settled in.
Yeah, they've cut all the vegetables down.
And taken the initiative to actually get things fixed and repaired. And
They've cleaned up the house, removed some of the mess that we left behind.
They want to take care of the place for us.
That's very forward thinking of them.
That is wonderful.
It is.
I hope you both don't mind. I would like to add someone to our group.
Who?
You have already seen him, most likely, running up. He is quite quick. And I imagine Hermes has probably done a couple laps of the house by now.
Oh God. You're like describing my youngest son right now.
That is Hermes.
Right. Well, I mean, more the merrier. Do you need like something to corral him, maybe? I mean, I could make like this little hut for him every so often if we need to.
I am unsure if he will tire. Perhaps.
I hope so.
Do you ever tire?
I do not.
Does he
Something to
talk,
consider
or
then.
is it more just like a golem?
For now, he is just a shell. He obeys simple commands. But I am hopeful that I will one day be able to give him a life of his own, thoughts of his own. That is my goal.
Then he's a very lucky construct.
He probably needs one of those brain gem things.
We'll get to that bridge when we cross it. How about?
I imagine it is going to be quite a long time. I am first going to try and teach him to walk and not run.
That
Okay.
would be wonderful. You should be proud of yourself, Fig, by the way.
You've come quite a long way since that day in the marketplace. It's quite impressive.
Thank you. I have great teachers.
And dealing with Griveth the whole time as well.
This is true. That's your true test. I fail it every single day. Speaking of which, where's Griveth and the large one?
They took there, right there.
About
Yeah,
this
of course.
So
time,
what, they took the what?
The ship.
Oh, you didn't take the ship, did you?
Fig wanted to walk.
Sure.
Hermes on the boat. It would have been a disaster.
Battery creates
so
a breeze.
It was all about Fig and Hermes. Not
We should
Nothing
go
to do with
inside
it.
now. 4 miles is a long walk. I need to sit down.
Would have been faster if you took the ship.
I'm gonna go ahead and head inside.
He's lying through his teeth.
about this time, the Evangeline is able to drop anchor offshore, and the boats are lowered. It's going to take a couple trips to get everybody in through the cave entrance. But in addition to offloading all of the refugees, the crew of the Evangeline and Captain Dervish insist that you all, they've actually had the crew go down below decks and unhook the hammocks that were slung up, and they've actually brought up the handful of bunks, the actual beds that were in the ship, as he just sort of tells you, Griveth, you're gonna need this stuff. I can get some more stuff for the ship later. Just get them all in there, get them fed, taken care of. Once everybody's back on there, Heward and Jocelyn and Sybil and Robin are gonna run the boats for you, and then we'll load up all of this stuff and we'll bring it into the house for you. You ain't got to worry about it. And yeah, once you get everybody settled, we'll see if there's anything else you need, and we'll see what we can do to help.
Thank you so much for helping us out. You know, a lot of these people would have never made it this far, so we owe you a lot.
Nah, I mean, you guys did all the heavy lifting. I just help out where I can. I mean,
We always appreciate it.
Drown, meanwhile, is loading hammocks and bunks into boats.
So
Cutting across frame back and forth as they talk.
So as you sort of, we'll just take, before we take our break here in a minute, it's just sort of a brief jump in time, by maybe a half hour or so, as now on that lower level, where the, not so long ago, Talmud, grabbed an improvised ham and, used it as a weapon. The table has been cleared away, pushed off to the side. The bunks have been pushed closer together. New beds are being put in. Hammocks are being strung in some of those other rooms. The secret door that was adjoining to the wine cellar, at the back of the house, has been left ajar. The bones.
Does that voice still scream, by the way?
Say again? Oh,
The alarm.
yeah. So when you guys come in, you do hear, as you go near the stairs, either set of stairs that lead down, you hear this voice that threatens you in various times. Sometimes it just swears, and Laramie's like, yeah, it's some kind of magic on this thing. We don't know how to stop it. Every time somebody comes near it, it just goes off. You're going to die. Come meet your doom. You hear, see, I don't know. You were talking about the magic earlier. Maybe there is something.
We'll definitely look
You
into
could do
that.
with that.
Otherwise, yes. Otherwise, I have a feeling that and I will be having conversations with each other.
It occasionally, with the sleepwalking, it has caused a few of us to be awoken in the night. If somebody walks too close to it. We tried to. I mean, just the last night, I tried to stay. I moved my bed near the bottom of the stairs so nobody would be able to go up to it, in the hopes they could get a full night's sleep. Also, you would notice that Laramie is quite surprised as you bring not the 15 refugees he was expecting, but 40 additional refugees. This house now has, counting all of you, there are, let's see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them, plus the 40, so there's 52, plus the 5 of you, or 6 of you, 7 of you. Yeah, there's almost 60 people in this house, and it's not long after helping move everybody in, Dervis says, yeah, we're gonna take the ship back to town and see about replacing some of these. We may end up staying in town anyway. I think we can help out there, if possible. I can bring word back to y'all in the morning.
Careful, you try to help out town too much, they tell you to get lost.
Do we have enough food and supplies for all of these people for at least a short time?
Well, apparently there were plenty of supplies that were brought up from below.
Taking a look, based on the number of people that you have, with the initial 12 people that were here, there was probably a month's worth of food, and provisions. There's maybe a week and a half with this many people.
That's fine for now.
It's plenty. Not enough for anybody to worry. You've learned that they've, out in the garden area, they're looking at, they haven't done anything about it yet, but they believe they can dig a new well. this well seems to have either run dry or run foul.
You
But-
said that there were carpenters amongst your people. Yes?
Yeah. I myself have been skilled, and Vagrin and Irithol are also skilled with carpentry.
Well, as unappreciative as the town of Saltmarsh has been since we've arrived, they have taken a pretty bad blow as of late, and having a good rapport with the town, if you're going to live this close, would probably not be a bad idea. You may want to go and see if you can lend a hand where it might be needed.
I don't disagree with you. This does seem like it would be a good thing, and in the first day or two we were talking about ways we could try to somehow work out arrangements to trade with the town. We don't have any money, but we have some of these textiles and these silks that are worth something. We were hoping we could trade for food, maybe get jobs, but look at them now. And you would have noticed Talmud and Fig and Cantriel and Thorgarn before or as the others started to come in, that Laramie is the most animated of the refugees. All of the others of them seem very tired and are often prone to staring out a window. They'll be in the midst of doing a task and they just stop. Somebody's sweeping the floor and suddenly you look over and they're just standing there holding the broom, staring at the dust as it settles. Somebody in the kitchen peeling potatoes, and the paring knife in their hand partially into a potato. They're just staring at it. They seem little more than listless otherwise. And if anything is said to them or you tap them on the shoulder or something, they and just sort of go back into what they're doing. And you notice that Laramie seems to have grown almost accustomed to this. As he walks around talking to you, he'll walk by somebody that is doing something and has gone into one of these blank stares, and he just sort of gently places a hand on their shoulder, and they start doing what they were doing again.
Does this seem like I'm sure that we've all seen people who have like suffered from trauma and shock. Does this seem normal, like conducive with that, or is this something else?
It seems, at first glance, the first one or two, maybe even three people, this seems very much like it could be a sign of some kind of post-traumatic stress. But everybody seems to be exhibiting the exact same signs. There's no variance amongst them. Though, to be fair, you didn't really spend any time with them, so you don't know what their personalities were like before. But it's a stark contrast. I think Drown and Griveth, you would notice a stark contrast to the way you've spent now a couple hours at least, with these other refugees. And though a few of them have similar behavior of staring off, it's only literally out of the 40, maybe 2 or 3 of them. Everybody else you've got some of them that they'll talk to anybody as soon as they come by. They just don't stop talking. Some of them that they can't help but thank you. Many, Griveth, there's almost a shiny spot you expect going to wear into the front of your shield, as everybody seems to want to touch the animated image of the holy symbol of Eldath, seeing it as the holy symbol that it is. Yeah, the people that are here in this house are very listless, and something seems to be going on. Just what? We'll have to wait and see after the break. Before we want to go on break, I do want to mention something that in the excitement, I think, of announcing that Dan was joining us in the Dawnbringers, I neglected to talk to you all. I think it's even more important seeing where the direction this particular session is taking. I want to take a moment and talk to you about mental health. Mental health is something that we take very seriously, and I do always mention it at least once in every stream. You may have noticed by now the phone numbers and website in the text scroll at the bottom, and Jeremy has just put in our chat command. It is important that you realize that there are mental health resources for you. Everybody has different ways of being affected by anything. And sometimes those feelings can manifest very strongly and very darkly. And it is important that you know that you matter, that you are important and you are loved. And whether you believe it or not, your presence on this planet means something. We think you're important. And that is why anytime during any of the mini terrain domain streams, you can simply type !help or watching the scroll as it goes by right now. There are resources available to you if you need somebody to talk to. In the United States, you can reach out to the National Suicide Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. If you are a veteran, you can press the number 1 after dialing that number, and you will be connected with a veteran specialist counselor. Or if you prefer, you can text 741-741 and get text help. If you are one of our many friends in Canada, you can reach the crisis text line by texting the word connect for English or parlay for French to 686-868, or you can call the Canada Suicide Prevention Services line in either French or English at 1-833-456-4566. If you are amongst our many friends that exist elsewhere in the world, in countries far and abroad, you can go to opencounseling.com/suicide-hotlines, and there are a number of resources there, phone numbers and text numbers for countries all around the world. So please, if you are somebody who is struggling, reach out and get help. I just had my my therapy appointment with my counselor on Tuesday, and it was amazing. It's helped me so much in dealing with my own anxiety and depression that so many of us have to deal with. And it was the best thing I've ever done was reaching out and seeking help. So we will always be sure to bring this up. I was remiss in not mentioning it at the top of the stream, but I think it's a little more poignant given the direction that this has sort of taken, that I wanted to emphasize that. So we are now going to take a 10-minute break. We will be back. If you're watching live with us, you may see a ad pop up. That is a simple 60-second ad. It does benefit the channel. So I guess just leave your stream up anyway, because it'll just go into the 10-minute waiting period. But I wanted to be open with you that I am running 60-second ads during the break, just to see, since it's a new feature Twitch rolled out for affiliates. So we will see you on the other side of this break as we continue episode 21, What Dreams May Come, of the Dawnbringers, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. See you on the other side. And we're back. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to pick up right where we left off. Well, we're going to skip ahead just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but it is moving on towards evening by now. I will say, mechanically, you all would have, at some point during this, if you took some time, because everybody's working to kind of move beds around, get food set up. People are starting to set up for a dinner, a sort of makeshift dinner, for all of the new refugees that have arrived. I would say that each of you would have found enough time to benefit from a short rest. So go ahead and click the short rest button, spend any hit dice that you need
and
to.
you get an extra d6, darlings.
Yes, and Cantriel is, I imagine, walking around and occasionally humming, and you hear her voice filtering through the house, so you benefit from her song of rest. So use that extra d6, and any other features that recover on a short rest. So it is getting towards evening. You would have noticed that the original refugees, that once things get moving and the others start coming in, they seem less prone to slipping into those fugue states of just staring off. But everybody has sort of worked together, and I need to just look at this map again real quick.
So Jake, real quick, when they decide, okay, we're gonna sit down and take a rest, however it gets done, Thorgarn finds something to keep doing, and if there's not any chores around the house or people that he can help, he just steps outside and kind of goes for a walk. He's not in the mood the rest of the moment.
Okay. Do you go out back around the pond, or do you walk down the road a little ways? Do you go stare off the cliff?
Is it a rough climb to go down towards the water?
The pond is straight out back. To go to the ocean without going down through the house, it's like a 50-foot bluff.
Is it a rough climb? Like, is it challenging?
It is. I can't tell if that's your criteria for wanting or not wanting to go down there.
Like, if it were like easy to moderate, he would just give it a try. But if
it's definitely like without climbing gear, you're probably gonna fall.
So he would just kind of like walk around, explore this area, because we didn't do a lot of exploring, around the house. Like, we saw the house, we went in, did the stuff, and then left.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, that is what you did.
So not trying to steal the show.
No. That's fine. Are you going to participate in the group dinner, or are you not? Are you actively not participating?
He'll eat quickly and quietly.
Okay.
But he's got antsy feet. Sitting still is not good for him right now.
Excellent. Okay. So before we get into that next thing, would anybody have the ability to attempt to deal with these magic mouths that are constantly blaring?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. If this becomes a thing after we have a chance to take a breather, Drown is going to go on a hunt of finding these obnoxious things and destroying them.
You don't have to hunt for them, as Laramie shows you where one in the on the ground floor, in the very back of the house, there is a set of stairs that lead down to the wine cellar, and in the westernmost room, there is, as the others had already known, there is a trap door. Well, you actually know that because you followed them down there. That's how you encountered them, and that is also where there is one of these. So, knowing where they are, what would you do to?
Yeah, so I'll just head to the the closest one. You said there was one sort of at the top of the stairs, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'll head straight over to that one. If Laramie shows me the way, that's fine. Otherwise, he's just going to go track them down after hearing them go off once or twice while everyone's working and or resting, and he'll head up to where the mouth is issuing all of its sound and swearing and abuse from, and just clench his fist, and the tattoos on his arm begin to writhe with that greenish, watery, spectral tentacle, and just slams his fist into the stone. I'll cast Dispel Magic on it. And that's at 5th level.
Excellent. Yeah, you deal with this first one, slamming your fist into the stone where this is coming from, and there is a spider web of cracks that appear as the voice is yelling at you. Enter now, and you will meet your. And it's done. Enter now, and you will meet your.
Very good. And so he'll tromp down the stairs after the one down in the wine cellar. He said it was at the trapdoor.
Yep.
All right. So he'll head over to that one, and
what?
He'll hold out his hand over the screaming magic mouth, and greenish, glowing, ghostly water will begin to bubble up out of the stone around it, and a massive fanged maw made of water will sort of rise up and clench its teeth, and then draw back down into the stone. One dispel that one as well.
This one, you hear this. You and all your ancestors will be. As it is smothered in water, and you have dealt successfully with both magic mouths. I keep wanting this to pluralize mouth like you pluralize mouse, and I'm almost calling them myth.
Magic mice.
So Griveth is fascinated with Drown because he's seen these other users of magic in the group, and Drown's doesn't seem like it's the same type of magic. So he's kind of sneaking around watching you do this. I mean, he's not particularly stealthy. He's a large man wearing armor. It's dragon armor, so it's not too clumsy. But
are you trying not to be seen at all? Just trying to be subtle?
Yeah, trying to hide a little bit.
Go ahead and make a stealth check versus Drown's perception. Is Griveth? Okay. This is my impression of Griveth.
My formidable passive perception, sir.
My stealth check is 11.
Yeah, Drown seems pretty well engrossed in what he's doing and doesn't pay you any mind.
Okay, so yeah, Griveth, he realizes that Drown gets his power from somewhere else. It isn't the knowledge of magic. It's something like him, and Griveth doesn't necessarily even know, except that the goddess has something to do with it. He's not trained in magic. He didn't go to a temple to learn how to channel the magic. He just does it, right? So when he, with his channel divinity, does he is your patron evil? Or
what channel divinity?
It's like I can detect fiends.
Divine senses. Divine senses.
Yeah.
I don't, I'll bow to Jake's interpretation of this, but I don't think anything about drown will trip those divine senses.
So as you reach out with your divine sense, what you gather is it's an interesting sense as you tap into that continually refreshing and roiling waterfall that is the representation of Eldath. And through that, there's a moment as Drown is dispelling this second magic mouth that you make a sort of connection between the two types of water magic. And what you realize is when you first started off on this adventure, and so many months ago, in the lower levels of that sunless citadel in the chasm outside of Oakhurst, and Eldath first made her presence known to you in that way that was frightening to yourself and the others, you did notice that your magic seemed to flow in a similar way to Vi, the human druid that was with you for that adventure. Drown's magic seems different. Not contrary, not driven by evil, not necessarily driven by good. It's not quantified in a good or evil way. You don't sense any form of howling.
Would you mind if I jumped in and gave a little description, since he's kind of getting a connection?
Yeah, I would say, with the water connection, absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead and riff off of that.
So what you would feel from it is cold, like deep bone aching cold, and almost like there's sort of like a headache crushing in on you from all sides, and you might start to have trouble breathing, like it's squeezing your chest. And as you're reaching out with your senses and watching this, that watery fang-toothed maw rises up, snaps around the spell, and then there's a moment where time sort of stops and it snaps forward, and there's these blazing green orbs locked with your eyes, and something is looking at you, and all you can feel is hunger. Endless, gnawing, empty, void hunger with that cold and crushing, and then it's gone.
It kind of startles me because it's essentially the exact opposite of what I experience, right? Like the waterfall that I sense is like, from my goddess, is like a warm, almost like a warm shower. It's like a tingly feeling. It's like a feeling of maybe not euphoria, but well-being. So it's like, it's almost like the exact opposite water element, so it's a bit of a shock to him at first, and he doesn't really understand it. But he's fascinated. He's fascinated with it.
And there is no inherent in with everything that you experience with that. It's not that I'm going to say that it's not that you don't sense good or evil. It's that the framework, the concepts of good and evil as you know them, don't seem to fit with what you're sensing.
Would there be like not a residual, but maybe an interference? Because when I reach out, that maybe is something going on in the house. Would my senses detect anything inadvertently, actually, as I'm trying to read Drown?
That is a wonderful question. So you, in the same way that that when you are submerged in a waterfall and all you hear is even in a soothing waterfall such as Eldath's, you still only hear that sound of rushing water. And momentarily you heard only this sort of oppressive silence of being deep underwater. Once you release from that, and to you it's a sensation much like stepping out of the waterfall, surfacing after being underwater for far too long, you get a sensation that seems to emanate from all around you in a direction you can't pinpoint.
So I don't feel it's coming from drown.
Not from drown, but from the house itself. You seem to be picking up senses of something evil.
Scotty, do you have inspiration?
I do, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Dan, that's a great point. Because I am notorious for forgetting to award inspiration.
I was gonna give him mine if he didn't have it because that was cool as hell.
Well, my rule is if any of the players or anybody in chat suggests that somebody should get inspiration for something, they will get it. Just because I often forget. That's been our sort of standing rule in my games. Yeah, that was very awesome. So as you're kind of pinging off of this this sense of evil, we're gonna step outside to Thorgarn. I imagine Thorgarn, you were inside for as long as you could stand to be, and you're still this something is gnawing at you. You find yourself walking briefly along the edge, along the bluff, contemplating maybe climbing down to the water below, before you realize that's probably not a good idea. It seems much steeper than you first thought, and the sun is beginning to set. It'll be dark before too long, and you continue on around, and you do see for quite a ways there's these rolling hills with the swaying grasses. There's that pond out back with the tree and the dock. In the distance to the north, you see forests. There was a small, not so much a forest as a very large copse of trees that you had encountered the lizard men at a few days before, when you'd first come here. You move around to the back of the house. Would you go further? Would you stray further away from the house towards the pond, closer to the house, looking at the work they did, or something else?
If we're looking at, the path comes this way, here's the house, and then there's whatever is beyond, I would probably be looking more at beyond. It's not so much like needing to get away from people or those people. It is more about feeling restless. Thorgarn has come to terms with the actions and even what Moradin has kind of in store for him. He just can't believe the audacity of the people in town saying, hey, you guys are heroes, you did all of this great stuff, all of this death is your fault, you brought this here, get out. He does not see their point of view, and he cannot just easily let it go. And the only way to kind of work through it is to kind of bodily get exhausted. So like he'll kind of get to a point, and he hasn't really experimented, even though he knows what the powers of this hammer are. So he wants to like get out to an area that's kind of open and safe, and he wants to just see how far he can throw the hammer, get his muscles kind of working and getting tired, essentially.
All right. There's plenty of space in this area sort of to the north of the house. where it seems as though off in the distance there's this forest, and you absolutely can start doing that. You don't need to make any rolls or anything. You wind up with this hammer, you swing it, and you release, and it flies out to about 20 feet. And for a moment seems to sort of, and not hitting anything, it just sort of spins in place for a second, and then right back to your hand. And you continue to do this, throwing it further and further, realizing that at its greatest range, you can throw it about 60 feet. You find that you don't have that same accuracy that you do at the closer range. But every time it leaves and goes to the desired range you want it to go to, out to 60 feet, with the full force, and then flies instantly back into your hand. After a few moments of this, you hear a voice, a familiar voice over your shoulder. Sometimes you just got to get out here and work it out, boy. It's Father Griffin.
And that's why I'm here. There's work to do in this world, and I'm learning my place in it. Sometimes the idiots that need the help force my hand away from it.
In this world, you'll find often that those that need your help the most are the ones that are going to resist it the most.
Well, there's want and there's need, and can't always go against their wishes. They don't want us in their town. They don't rightly need to be there.
Have you asked yourself, is it you wanting to help them, or you needing to help them?
I don't think either. I think Moradin put me on a path that you helped me walk some time ago. And though you're not physically here to walk with me, you've never really left my side. And I've questioned that path many a time, and it's been troubling. But I look up to the heavens, and then back at the warhammer in my hands. He's come to me. He's spoken to me. I know the path. I know what I need to do. But I am not going to force my presence upon those that don't want my help. There are plenty in this world who could use myself and fellow Dawnbringers. We don't need to be relegated to one place. There's work everywhere.
It's good that you've noticed this. But also notice that Moradin blesses you with a hammer, not a feather. It's a heavy touch, Moradin's. That's nothing light. I'm not saying you're wrong. You've come a long ways. You've come a long way since I last walked alongside you as a living person. But it looks like you have a long ways yet to go, Thorgarn. And I can tell you, it's not going to get any easier.
Well, just like, hold up the hammer and I shift it down into the smithing hammer. Just like the hammer beats the metal to shape it, it's tiring work. The metal turns into a useful form, whatever you need it to be. And through his will and your teaching and even your guidance here, I am being forged into what Moradin wills. I'm happy to do so. It's going to take work from me, and it's going to take work from everywhere, but it will get done, regardless of whatever's down that path.
The important thing is that as you continue your work, you keep making memories. Thorgarn, I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
A wisdom saving throw. That's not good. All right. That's an 8. Want me to reroll? All right, spend the main die.
We just got a new domain die thanks to a raid from Unmade Gaming. So,
well, thanks to Mike and all his friends. So that's a 14.
Thorgarn, as Father Griffin says these last words to you, you notice that particularly in the waning light, he seems more corporeal than you've ever seen him before. And as he says these words, you feel the last words, as he says, keep making memories seep into your mind. And I'm going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 D10.
8 D10? Oh my god!
That is 14, 20, 26, 36, 41, 47, 50 points of psychic damage.
50 points of psychic damage. Oh my god.
As this happens, Thorgarn, the word memories is bouncing around in your head. What memory from your past emerges?
Well, since we're talking, since I'm talking to Father Griffin, it would have to be, that moment when the orcs, set upon the caravan. Thorgarn was an acolyte from an early age. He grew up with Talmud, and Talmud was always bigger, always stronger. So Thorgarn was pushed towards the priesthood, and spent time as an acolyte, years of training, and he and a handful of other acolytes were chosen to go on a sacred pilgrimage from this, town where you've got humans and dwarves and all these others living together, to go to the actual dwarven temple to Moradin in the area, and those who passed the test would become full-fledged clerics, to be bestowed upon power by Moradin. During that caravan, orcs, descended through a pass, killed everyone but Thorgarn. He was left for dead. He was the only one to survive. So he's in that moment, seeing the orcs carrying away the sacred text that was Father Griffin's.
As you see this memory, the image of Father Griffin before you shifts. And you see yourself as you were on that day. And Thorgarn alone, for the moment, I would like you to roll initiative.
Okay. Let me modify my hit points real quick. From the... No, not what I want to do.
Also, you need to, anytime you roll that D20 for an ability check or attack roll, you need to roll a D4 with it and subtract the total. Subtract it from the total.
For anything or just
ability checks and attack rolls.
All right, so that's gonna be. I'm gonna have to use a domain die because that's just way too low. All right, that's better. That's a 10.
All right, I'm adjusting the domain die total real quick. I seem to have omitted one. There we go. The figure of yourself, the arms seem to form in their hand, mirror images of your weapons. And it is going to attack you.
Okay.
The first attack is going to be a dirty 20 to hit.
Yeah.
You are going to take, I'm going to use these lovely Dawnbringer dice that you so lovingly delivered that I'm going to roll damage against you with. That is a 15 points of bludgeoning damage and 9 points of psychic damage as this attack hits you.
Well, now that I'm down to 3 hit points, this is awesome.
As it strikes you, you see the other hand raise its weapon, and it seems to hesitate. It opens its mouth, and this time with your voice. Memories. And I need another wisdom saving throw.
With the Bane, right?
Yeah. No. It's not saving throws. Not saving throws.
That's better. It's 18.
This time you see no memory manifest itself. Whatever this word is, it doesn't penetrate into your mind. It is your turn.
All right. Well, I will give a primal scream. I'm not too far from the house, so hopefully someone will be able to come and pick up my broken body. But I am going to swing at whatever this manifestation is of myself with Forge Bane. And I am going to re-roll both of those dice because a 2 and a 4 is not going to help me. That is insanely better. Double 19s.
Sorry, did you use domain dice? You said
2.
It's not disappearing. Why is that not disappearing? Magic domain dice. They don't want to go away. What did you get on the second? On the rerolls?
So it's a 28 to hit.
Yeah.
let's see here. So that's that. I am going to call upon the last bit of Morden power and turn one of those into a smite.
Okay.
So that is 6, 8, 41 points of damage, unless you need that broken down into different types.
I do not. 41 total. Yes. Remember. And I need another wisdom saving throw from you.
You know, I just have a single +1 on this die, right? That is a 15.
What is your maximum HP?
We technically are we out of the Hero's Feast? Or is it still within that confines?
It's getting towards nightfall, so you would be out of it because you had breakfast when you had the Hero's Feast.
Okay. So then max HP is 81.
And you're at 3 hit points?
I'm at 3 hit points, yes, sir.
Okay. Because I'm rolling 8d10 again. Well, it doesn't matter because I can't. Let me rephrase that. I don't want it to say I can't outright kill you because that sounds like I'm trying deliberately to kill Thorgarn.
But 8d10 guarantees 8 damage, so.
So you are going to drop.
Okay.
The last thing you see before you fall unconscious is.
Wait a second. Can I? Is it another memory thing?
It is.
Because I will totally steal this if you let me.
Go for it.
So after Thorgarn woke up from the caravan attack, he wound up doing a whole bunch of stuff and getting introduced to another band of adventurers. They weren't together long enough to really, get a name, but they adventured together and helped Thorgarn kill the orcs who had raided the caravan. But like so many others in his past, they too were destined to meet their downfall. So in a let's see if I. So we've got Shamorla, the female gnome wizard. We have got a dwarven warrior, Leskin, a human cleric, Falane, and a human thief by the name of Tren. And one by one, they fall in this battle. Thorgarn, was able to, defeat this monstrous foe before it's over, but not before each one of them dies at the hand of this monster. Thorgarn being unable to save them, and as he falls unconscious, he rushes over to the gnome, and he picks her up in his arms, completely and utterly distraught as the lights go out.
Alone, not too far outside of the house, in a field, Thorgarn's body lies unconscious, bleeding out. The camera pans inside where we see people. For the first time, some people are laughing, talking amongst themselves. This dinner that has been put together on trestles and tables and crates thrown together to form a large square-shaped table around in this sort of circular way, rectangular way. I'm just going to say every geometric shape. In that room on the western part of the house, where the trap door had or still is, but no longer screams at you when you go through it. And everybody's in there. People are passing food, laughing. The rest of the Dawnbringers are in there. And each of you, as you're partaking, this is happening at different places around the table. One of the original members of the refugees, Cantriel, one of them's passing both a plate of salad, or a bowl of salad, and a plate with some meats on it. I'm not sure which of these you would prefer. I can't remember. Talmud. Another one says to you, I don't know if it's wine or if it's ale that you prefer. It's slipping my memory. Griveth. I see that you, this older man, you have the symbol of Eldath upon you. Is this because you are the clerical domain, or is this you serving as a paladin? It slips my memory. Drown. I'm uncertain, sir. You're so large. Forgive me for calling that out, but I've never seen one such as you. Though I feel I've heard tales, I just can't remember where you come from. And Fig. A gnome woman turns to you. My father was always very adept at the construction of toys. I'm not calling you a toy, but it's such a fun memory that I have. And I need everybody except for Fig to make a wisdom saving throw. Fig, you will automatically succeed. Sorry. You will automatically succeed, not fail, at this saving throw.
It's a dirty 20 for Drown.
18 for Cantriel.
24 for Griveth.
Jeez.
I got a dirty 12.
You got the main dice there, Jeremy.
You know, I'm good with it. I'm going to let it ride.
19, 22, 27, 31, 34, 40. Talmud, you take 45 points of psychic damage.
Your dice
Fig.
are hot and I don't like it.
Fig, you watch as near you see Talmud just sort of, as this person is talking to him, and you're hearing all of these conversations happen all around you. You watch as Talmud sort of gets one of these blank stares that you've seen the other refugees have. And drool sort of starts to come out of his mouth a little bit. And Talmud making note that going forward until otherwise specified, you will be rolling a d4 and subtracting from ability checks and saving through or attacks. Griveth, Cantriel, Drown, you all sense something in their words is trying to invade your mind. Fig, you just see this gnomish woman saying, I said it was a very fond memory. And there's nothing. You just see a gnome getting a very deep voice looking at you. Remind me, everybody, what your passive perceptions are. Or you know what? With this happening, everybody go ahead and make a perception check.
Do I have to?
Well, given that something just tried to invade your
Yeah, I
mind.
know.
I don't get one.
Okay, how's 29?
All right.
You know, I got the same thing too. Minus 20. So
what
Griveth
about
got 12.
okay? Drown
9.
Talmud.
16.
Cantriel.
Yay!
Before I tell you what you see,
don't know.
or Thorgarn, I would like you to make a death saving throw.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
13.
All right. This isn't Schultz, so that's a success.
Yep.
Thankfully.
Cantriel, you
Oh,
see,
death curse.
as you're looking around and seeing this happen, I imagine almost reflexively, you push away from the table. There's a squeak of your chair on wood. And you see most of in fact, the majority of the people here have no idea that anything's even happening. 40 of these people are the fresh refugees that are, which sounds like an awesome band name.
Fresh refugees.
That they are happy to be amongst other people, free, they're eating. But around the table, you see the looks on Drown and Griveth's faces. You see Talmud sort of just beginning to kind of shake out of something. Fig is looking at this gnome. And the door you hear open in the foyer. And you hear footsteps walking down the hall, coming into this room. And you see Thorgarn walk into the room. In Thorgarn's arms is Thorgarn. Unconscious. Arms hanging. But that's perhaps not the strangest thing that you notice. As you look at the person that was talking to you, you glance over to the person talking to Talmud, and in particular, you see it with this Thorgarn carrying Thorgarn. Each one of them has a trail, an umbilical of sorts of slime trailing from their back and disappearing into the walls and the floorboard of the house. As all of the original refugees begin to stand up, and as one they begin saying, "Tell us your greatest memories." And that is where we're going to end tonight's session. I saw, I think earlier on, I saw a glimpse of somebody possibly figuring something out, and then I think I confirmed a suspicion. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to have anybody else say anything. I don't know how many of you may have figured something out, but we will see just what is happening next week when the Dawnbringers returns. Season 3, episode 22.
Nothing like starting off a session with death saving throws.
Will you please call the next session Sticky Situation?
Oh dear God.
I will make a note of that. I'm at that point now where I got to double check sometimes, just to make sure I haven't used a name already. But yeah, not quite what you were expecting. Coming back to the house after rescuing a bunch of refugees, things.
No.
I was expecting a haunt.
Hey, how about the ties that slime?
Ooh.
Didn't we have another one that was something about a tides?
The slimes that bind.
Ties. Not tides.
I don't think the slimes are trying to bind us.
Oh dear God.
Hey,
That's what you
just be thankful that whatever this thing is, it thought to bring you in the house, Thorgarn.
Oh, thank you
Hey,
so much.
yeah, that's awesome.
That did not sound sincere, Ted. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Hey, thanks.
Thanks for that.
Oh.
All right, well, thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight to join us. We picked up a few new followers tonight, so thank you for that. If you haven't or don't already follow the channel, make sure you hit that follow button to be notified when Mini Terrain Domain goes on the air. We have a variety of games happening. We've got Cult of Personality with Megan and some other wonderful players on Sunday nights. We've got All That Glitters with Megan and myself, DM'd by Mike the Piper and a couple other awesome players on Mondays. Every other Tuesday, I'm either over at Dice on Ice with Megan yet again as she's running us through Curse of Strahd, or I've got a whole other group of players on alternating Tuesdays for Legends and Legacies, Tales of Phandelver. The second and fourth Wednesday of every month, right here on Mini Terrain Domain. It's not D&D, but it's Spire, The City Must Fall, GM'd by Connor and produced by Megan. That happens at 9 p.m. on those Wednesdays. And of course, Thursdays, every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern is the Dawnbringers, happening with this wonderful crew of amazing people. Friday nights, starting tomorrow, you will find me on YouTube at 7:30 with the new 2-hour live crafting stream, followed by at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain. You can find Alan and his crew running their Curse of Strahd game. So it's D&D just about every day of the week right here on Mini Terrain Domain. Again, thank you to everybody who's watching, hanging out in the chat. Chat was bumping tonight. Thank you to Mike and the wonderful people at Unmanned Gaming for the raid. Thank you to Tamiko, Shadow of Dragons, EverJ for your resubscriptions, a combined 36 months between the three of them of subscription time. We truly appreciate it. We love all of you guys and appreciate your support. And of course, as always, a tremendous thank you to Scotty, V, Megan, Ted, Jeremy, and now Dan, the Dawnbringers, who, as I say every week, without whom it would just be me talking to myself for 3 hours. You'll get that for 2 hours tomorrow during the live crafting. But it's always a blast to play with all of you. Dan, once again, welcome to the Dawnbringers. We're happy to have you here. We're excited to see more and learn more about the character of Drown, provided he survives this next session.
Not guaranteed.
To find out who survives, tune in next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern to Dawnbringers. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to end the stream the same way I end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.
A memory.